Hey everyone. Since we started this show, we realized that we've changed from our original fun with using the rules to break the game. And the more we chat about D&D 5th edition rules with all of our guests, we've realized that we love using the rules to make our games actually better. Now, instead of seeing loopholes for exploits, we see opportunities for creative solutions to challenges. And when some people hear rules as written, it does conjure images of rules lawyers and a denial to the rule of cool. Our hope is that by sharing how to apply, adapt, and improve the rules, you can make your games more fun for players and for DMs alike. So, thanks for joining us. Hey, this is Tony.
Hi, this is Bethany.
Hey, this is Rachel.
Hi, this is Mike.
And don't forget, you can find D&D Raw on all of your favorite podcatchers. And please follow us on Twitter at RulesAsWritten. Or if you have any questions, you can email us at dm@dndraw.com. Or you can join our Discord. We'll make sure to post a link in the description. And please, if possible, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/dndraw. So before we begin, we are going to be talking about Unearthed Arcana content. So if you want, you can check out our previous episode on what UA is. We'll make sure to post a link in the description. Also, we've already interviewed Mike here on Rules as Written. So please, if you want to check out his interview, go ahead and take a look at our episode on Tool Proficiencies.
I have not changed. I am still me. How's it going?
All right, and today we're going to be going over the Unearthed Arcana for the class feature variants. We'll make sure to have the link in the description for the actual PDF on this Unearthed Arcana. All right, so kind of jumping right into this, was there a particular class feature that caught your eye?
Well, I think Tony's kind of getting at why we wanted to have this with you all together, Mike, because you were like, dude, we need to talk about...
There's a lot here.
I think Fighting Styles was the first one.
Yes, fighting styles is big. I can now have a grappler. I can now play a luchador. Legitimately.
Well, hold on. You might want to take a step back.
Should you?
You're not... This isn't you as a person, right? You're talking about if Tony allowed you to use this for Scriv in our campaign. Or in any future campaign you were playing.
What jumped out at me, since Scrib was planning on becoming a battle master, is maneuver versatility, which states that for any of the maneuvers in a fighter's Battlemaster archetype, you can swap maneuvers out per long rest. And when I brought this up to you, you said no.
Okay. I will mention that's mainly because I see just the Battlemaster, like the various maneuvers you have is you're trained to like really focus and use those maneuvers. And just like, I'm just going to sleep on it. Now I have new, like, I've honed new skills, guys.
But also, I forgot the old ones.
But you are essentially a battle master, not a ambush master, or not a, like, you're not, I don't know, to me, it's battle is all types of battling, so
Even a battle of the mind, Tony.
No.
Oh,
No.
I'm not by the way, I'm not dissing the new features. I'm having an issue with swapping them because you slept on it.
You're saying something swapped at night makes sense. Some of them really
Something
don't.
swapped on a long rest makes sense. I would consider it more if it was when you gain a level in this class rather than on a long rest.
Well, can we look at what some of them are and think, how would this work if you suddenly woke up the next morning and you're like, guys, guess what? I now have a silver tongue and I am really good at lying and persuading.
You're a little better at lying and persuading.
Well, let's assume you're playing a fighter. You're probably way better than you were.
So, maneuver versatility, yeah, you replace a maneuver on a long rest. I think that's... It says this change reflects your physical and mental preparation for the day ahead. And I see this as just way too short of a time frame to, like... I know I was specializing in being able to, like, knock opponents down or command people to get into striking distance, but now, guys, I'm all range. I can snipe.
Yeah, let me give you a pitch, Tony. What if it is a fighter, someone who's like a Scriv character, who's like, okay, so I've actually been studying some textbooks. So every night I go and I review like little lessons and like detailed things on, this is how you ambush people. So that I prepared for the day ahead, like a cram session. Thoughts?
I like it.
I still don't particularly like it because I see fighters as more such high demand of training in the class. I mean, that's why you get heavy armor and medium armor and like all these various proficiencies in all these different weapons and stuff, because you are extremely well trained.
Speaking of training, if I have an opportunity to call out, superior technique is an interesting fighting style, because it's just like you become a baby battle master with your single technique. Instead of getting a flat bonus to archery attacks or to damage, it gives you a single superiority die, and you can pick one of the battle master maneuvers, which is similar to martial adept. I thought that was interesting.
How would that work if you combined it with martial adept?
Level 1, you get 2 maneuvers and 2 superiority die, which means level 1 fighter is practically a battle master.
Yeah, which is exciting and yet definitely a problem from a game balance perspective.
Kind of busted.
You just become a human fighter, and you're like, hey, I know I'm level 1, but I'm basically as good as that level 3 dude.
I think that they can't keep this because of the feat. Why would they bother with this feat anymore?
What if I'm a paladin? I don't believe this is a fighting style that's available to all classes, which means that having the martial adept feat still works for other classes.
It's unbalanced. It's interesting, but it's unbalanced, I guess is what it comes down to. Superiority dice are great. Having played a battle master, I've never played a straight battle master. They're amazing for multi-classing because it means you just give yourself some versatility with whatever else you're doing. And I feel like they didn't think about this as something that would be multi-classed, which is odd to me. But I mean, it's definitely interesting because the ability to roll more dice just is fun and exciting. And it could stack nicely with other things, but I also see that if someone was very crafty and used it to their advantage, it could result in being much more powerful than other characters at similar levels. Mike is nodding like a maniac.
Yes.
Much nod.
Mike's like, yes, why do you think I'm here?
Well, I'm not a min-maxer, but I acknowledge the design space that they're trying to take advantage of here. But can we call out a couple of these or not fighting styles?
Well, actually, I was going to say, Blessed Warrior. Rachel, did you want to bring that up?
Yes. So I was looking at that and I was like, I am totally on board with this because I really like playing my paladin, but the lack of having any cantrips kind of sucks. So being able to have a couple cantrips would be really awesome. I do have, on mine I took the great weapon fighting, so I do like rerolling my 1s and 2s and all that good stuff, but I feel like I would actually get a lot more use out of the cantrips than that rerolling 1 and 2 because of the role I play in our party.
Well, in general, the game has been saying if you're a half-caster, you don't get cantrips, right? That's kind of been the direction. I'm trying to think, but this only gives paladins that ability, not any of the other half-casters, does it?
Rangers get Druidic Warrior, which does the same thing.
Yes, so they are now giving half-casters cantrips as an option. It's part of their fighting. So basically, the half-casters now have a fighting style option that lets them use cantrips.
Which means that if you, for example, Ranger, I don't remember, is it Hunter that gets 2 fighting styles?
Fighters get 2 fighting styles. Champion fighters.
Yeah, you get some additional abilities, like Hunter has a Colossus Slayer ability where you get to add a d8 to damage.
You get a special fighting ability under certain situations.
I was looking at this recently because I like Rangers.
Okay, speaking of Rangers, since I was going to hold off until later, but we're here.
I'm about to say, I know Bethany would like to talk about this.
Do we need the Ranger anymore? What does a Ranger do that we can't supplement through other...
Tracking, navigating,
Nature check, okay.
No, there's a bunch of stuff that only Rangers can do. But basically, in some campaigns, no, you don't need a Ranger.
It's all dependent on the campaign. A Ranger is one of the most campaign specific focus.
In some campaigns, your group will die if you don't have a Ranger, because you will just wander off into the wilderness and die.
It feels like Deft Explorer works to adapt to that kind of pigeonholing that happens in a campaign. Deft Explorer being the level 1 Ranger feature that replaces Natural Explorer, as opposed to picking your master domain, whether it's like being the master of the swamp or being the master of the mountain. You get 3 kind of little sub-features. One is additional skill proficiencies and expertise, I think?
Yep, basically you get expertise and a skill.
And you get 2 languages, which is always good. you get plus 5 feet of movement, period, as opposed to being able to ignore underbrush and everything else.
But you also get a climbing speed and a swimming speed.
Fair.
Which means that it's not like literally you can jump in a lake and like do your full movement.
You're like, don't worry, guys, I got you. And you just paddle away. People are like, he's weird, but he sure is helpful.
Campaign dependent, because if your DM's not throwing water combat or, oh, there's a mountain you got to climb or there's a wall that's here.
But this is generally good compared to being locked into I can only ignore difficult terrain in the mountains.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is overall better for the Ranger than the Natural Explorer.
And then Tireless, which I was really excited for and then got disappointed when I saw it was a long rest. Because it's effectively the Fighter Second Wind at level 1, where you get 1d10 plus Wizmod, and then you can use it a number of times equal to your Wizmod, which is great. And then I saw that you could only use it on long rest.
Well, that makes sense to me because the Ranger shouldn't be a fighter.
Also, slight note, it is 10 hit points.
Oh.
And the second part of this ability, which actually is kind of impressive, you can remove exhaustion on short rests.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
For yourself.
Yes, it's only for you.
You don't care about those other people. You're doing all the legwork as this
You're
Ranger.
a ranger.
You're running around.
Yeah, the Ranger is so used to being out in the woods and being extremely active that, it only takes a short rest for them to feel recovered from that level of exertion.
Yeah, so overall, I think this just kind of reinforces what we've seen all along is Wizards doesn't know what to do with Rangers either. They keep throwing us new stuff like, here's a totally new version. You would like this? Here's some new stuff. Does this work? We don't know what to do with this class. We're not going to officially change it. We're just going to keep giving you options. So maybe you guys will play this?
There is a lot of kit bashing available, like to build on another level 1 change instead of Favored Enemy, which gives you the bonus to tracking a particular enemy. And I think that's the one that gives you a language of your favored foe, right?
Favored enemy, you get a language of the enemy you choose. Yes.
Yeah. So if I have favored foe orc, I would learn orcish as an example. Favored foe, in the current one it is called favored enemy. In this new one, it is favored foe. Foe versus enemy, very distinct. Anyway, what this does is it's a damage fix. It gives you Hunter's Mark as just an inherent spell and you can cast it a certain number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of 1 in case you're, not a wise ranger.
But if that's the case, what are you doing with your life?
You are playing a fighter that can go in the mountains. That is about it.
But who's really not very good at it. Yeah.
Let's be honest. Wizards realized what is the spell that all Rangers will take.
What defines a Ranger? Having Hunter's Mark.
Also, it doesn't count towards your list of known spells as a Ranger once you get spells at level 2. Because they're like, let's be honest, you really just should take this spell.
Yeah. Well, and I think the not requiring concentration and not expending the spell slot is really nice.
Oh, I didn't notice that it...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can use it a certain number of times without using a spell slot. So it's like, you already have that finite number of spell slots. Now it's like, you can save those for when you really need them and still get the damage.
Oh, I was really piqued by the without requiring concentration.
Yeah, that's a huge deal to me.
Yeah, if you're in melee and you use Hunter's Mark...
Guess what? They have Hunter's Mark on them now.
Yeah, and if you get hit, you don't need to worry about, being in melee.
That means also Rangers can then use other concentration spells, since I know most Ranger spells are concentration that deal any sort, especially the damage ones.
But here's the thing, right? We're saying this replaces Favored Enemy. So essentially, you're giving up everything you get for Favored Enemy for damage.
Yes.
So you lose a lot of your primary Ranger abilities.
Which is your ability to track and have information on the enemies.
So basically, you're not a ranger anymore.
No. If I go Deft Explorer and Favored Foe, I'm Strider from Lord of the Rings. That's it. I'm just the murder man.
Yeah, he wasn't really a very good ranger. It was just...
Definitely more fighter build.
It was built for a different campaign, okay?
I know. And then the surprise!
They realized there was a shift and he's like, you know what? We're still going to call you a ranger, but really you took 1 level of ranger and 7 levels of fighter, okay?
Yeah.
So I love Hunter's Mark. I think it's great, but I wouldn't build a ranger primarily for the damage. But if you're building this as a multi-class. So I think what they have here is interesting, and I think it could be useful, but it's also more of the whole, here's ranger stuff. I don't think there's been a lot of thought into how this actually balances. It's more just here's something. You like Hunter's Mark? Here's, special Hunter's Mark. Take it away.
Everyone free Hunter's Mark. And you get a Hunter's Mark. And you get a Hunter's Mark.
And they made an improvement on hide in plain sight, which before was spend a minute putting on makeup
Garbage.
Oh, that was you do what's the guy from the Hunger Games?
Yeah.
The PETA thing. You like paint yourself with some mud and all of a sudden you're like,
and it was like a mechanical plus 10. And now it's just.
You turn invisible.
Yeah.
As a bonus action.
Basically just get Pass Without a Trace at that point. Like for the original one.
Pass Without a Trace is so good.
You get a plus 10. And you get to move.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I did not like hide in plain sight at all.
Well, but the big thing for Ranger that we didn't talk about was the companion options. That's the big change here that they provided, where you get these special primal beasts, beast of the air or beast of the earth. Only beast of air and earth. Apparently we didn't get the other primal forces, just these two.
It's like, hey, so we acknowledge that bears don't have a lot of hit dice, so why not just have a beast of earth shaped like a bear?
Right. So it's like a bear, but it's like not a bear at the same time. You're like, yes. Which I think is interesting. They give them like much better abilities than your standard bear or something like that. And they have special abilities like Primal Rebirth, where if your beast dies, you can use your action and basically expend a spell slot and it just returns to life with all of its hit points back. Like, whoop, it's back, guys.
Which I kind of get because Rangers just don't get a lot of spell slots in general. So they're just like, well, if you're going to use one of your limited spell slots, here, bring back your primal creature.
I would be concerned about it being like...
Too strong? That you could just bring back all its HP?
Yeah, like an onion barbarian, but...
I mean, you use an action, but then it's a minute later that it comes back.
Yeah.
Oh...
If you're in that battle for a minute waiting for that beast to come back, I think you got more problems.
You're just like, dude, like, you're on your own.
I thought it was res.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's and then you just stand there with your arms crossed like, any second now. It's gonna happen.
Please hold, big bad guy. I gotta get my beast back up.
But here's the thing I do like. Having an animal companion as a ranger is great, but there's a lot of worry about them dying, and it makes you not use them, which is sad if that's your primary, purpose for being.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing to have. I'm not sure exactly how well this would work in combat. And it would be sad if you were using your few spell slots to do this more often, but it seems like as long as you're not being like, I don't know, some sort of monster, it wouldn't happen that often.
Mechanically, so how does Beastmaster attack work? Like, do they get a feature later on where if you make an attack, your beast makes a free attack? Because they get Ready Companion, which is effectively turning it into like your offhand attack. You spend a bonus action to command your beast to make its attack.
All right, so this is how it works normally. On your turn, you can verbally command the beast where to move with no action required by you. However, you can then use your action to verbally command it to take the attack, dash, disengage, dodge, or help action.
Yeah, it's bad, right?
Once you have the extra attack feature, you can make one weapon attack when you command the beast to take the attack action. So you are sacrificing one of your two attacks to tell your beast to make that second attack.
Yeah, so you're like, as a high-powered ranger, probably at certain points with we'll say even just a short sword, I'm going to give up my attack action to my bear who's going to backhand somebody with their paw.
At higher levels, by the way, you can eventually have it where if your beast doesn't attack, you can then just use a bonus action to command it to dash, disengage, dodge, or help. Or at level 11, when you command it to attack, it can then make two attacks.
So it's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad, and it feels like Ready Companion is bad. Because Ready Companion is bonus action to make an attack.
In the new Unearthed Arcana, yeah.
It's only slightly better?
It's better, but it's still not good. Every time I've looked at building a ranger, I've looked at like the whole Beastmaster path and been like, but why though? I mean, why not just do Find Familiar if I want a pet that does some stuff? Like, this is in every way
worse.
Well, we were talking about Hunter's Mark. As a ranger, really, you're building up to doing good damage by stacking dice onto your attack with various different abilities. You can't do that with your companion.
Hunter's Mark doesn't apply to your bear's attacks.
No.
Only yours.
I mean, you can encourage that bear all you want. So, your question originally, Mike, was, do we need ranger? My question was, does this make the ranger better? And we don't have a definitive answer.
I think this makes the ranger slightly better, but overall, it's still not where it should be. Like, the revised Ranger I thought was better as to where the Ranger should be.
Yes, though the revised Ranger is overpowered for multi-classing, which is
Yes.
fun to play, not so great if you're like...
A Ranger, Rogue, Fighter, Cleric?
I don't know what you're talking
what?
about. Great for multi-classing. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Would add to Rogue and Fighter.
Honestly, I would just rather play Ranger to Fighter however many and then have the Outlander background, and there you go.
As someone who's very pro Ranger, I would never play a level 20 Ranger. You basically get all your best stuff before level 10. After that, you're kind of like, why am I here?
I mean,
why am I not a fighter?
Have we mentioned hide in plain sight?
Yeah.
That's your level 10 ability.
Your level 10 ability is that, the painting yourself
Guess what?
with mud.
Spend a minute and don't move.
And guys are like, why did we bring this guy with us? It's like, oh, right. He kept us alive at lower levels. That's right. He found food. He gave us good berries. Like, yeah, he had a purpose. But like now he's kind of just a weirdo.
Oh, no, he was always a weirdo. He just kept us alive at the time it was weirdo. Now we have lots of HP.
Now we don't need him anymore.
So, quick touch on Rogue. Rogue only has one change, and that change is giving yourself advantage as a bonus action.
Tony and I were looking at that like, I'm by myself, guys, but I need advantage so I can get my sneak attack off. So I'm gonna... Is it the cunning action you're replacing?
No, it's an addition to your cunning actions.
Uh-huh.
So you can still dash, disengage, and hide as a bonus action, but now you can also aim.
Which means that you cannot move.
Yes, you sacrifice your movement for getting advantage on your next attack.
This is you're standing in place and drawing your crossbow and really thinking about shooting that guy in the shoulder.
Your speed 0 thing ends on your current turn.
Yes.
Which means if for any reason you have a thing that says use your reaction to move X many squares, you can do that.
You can do that. What do you think of the features that just I mean, we talked about already that the enhancement from Rogue with the cunning action aim. What do you think of the the existing features for like Channel Divinity and Wild Shape?
Where the game is just going, hey, here's some new options.
Adding on, like for Channel Divinity, you get a spell slot back.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Also, the Wild Shape one I liked. How you can use it to do the Find Familiar companion trade-off instead of using one of your shape changes. So I was like, that's kind of cool, because then normally what I've been doing, with Elaine is I change into something and kind of do some scouting. I could essentially summon a familiar, have them do it, and then still help build camp or set up camp.
So you know how we have the Ranger? Let's just make the Druid have the better version.
I mean, we are superior in every way, but...
No, I mean, here it's basically saying you get Find Familiar. You don't get to keep it. It's only for a few hours. But it would be useful for scouting and things, or, I mean, really just scouting. That's actually the only use I can see. What else, unless there's something else you could use it for?
I mean, yeah, it's basically just a scout.
Yeah, it's your Disney princess, like you call out to the woodland creatures and they come help you for a minute.
Well, no, you don't get a creature, you get a fae. Like, you're like, oh, it looks like a squirrel, but there's something about those eyes.
You've called upon the ancient pact.
Squeak.
Yep.
I would totally do that. I do really like Harness Divine Power to allow paladins to gain a spell slot from Channel Divinity. Paladins have very few spells available, and I'm not always going to be flashing my holy symbol and turning away undead, because Channel Divinity comes back after a short rest, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of like what's the name of the wizard feature that lets the Arcane Recovery?
Yes.
That lets them recover a certain number of spells. This is the paladin version of that.
And Cleric, by the way. Clerics also can do this.
Yeah, it feels like a little bit with some of the casting stuff. They're like, hey, did we make calf casters not good? Should we fix or give options?
We bump up a little bit, make better.
Make more castery because magic is cool.
But no, I do like it's a bonus action, but you do only get a first level spell slot.
That's a lot for me, though.
Oh, I know. For a paladin, it makes a huge difference. I don't think it does for a cleric. That you're spending your Channel Divinity, which is supposed to be very special to your class, on a spell slot. And I see that as for a cleric, more of an emergency situation.
Well, here's the thing. We were talking about, okay, not every day you're going to be turning away undead. There's more than one Channel Divinity option. It would be more useful if you're like, guys, I picked something that's really just not coming up in the campaign at all, so at least it'll give me something I can do.
I'm a nature cleric.
That's more where I see it. But like what I'm going to mention with several of these various features, this comes down to just talking to the DM and the DM talking to the players ahead of time about what to expect from the campaign.
That's true.
I think more than just, guys, I picked something I just am not ever using. It's like, is that because it just happens to not come up and you never talked about it? Or did you talk about it and decide, no, I'm still going to go for it, and then realized, oh, well, I know he said this was never going to come up.
Well, yeah, if it's like, hey, the turn undead, and you're like, literally, where are all my undead?
I was going to say, the turn undead is a flat class feature for clerics.
So does this mean that you have opposition to, say, cantrip versatility?
So yeah, let's go into the versatility stuff. Cantrip versatility is whenever you gain a level in the class, you can replace a cantrip you've learned with another cantrip. I don't mind that.
I have no problem with that, because sometimes you pick a cantrip and you're like, in my head, this was going to be cool, but in reality, it's garbage. Or somebody else has something that's just more applicable to what we're doing, so
Guys, mending was good, but we have magic now. We have money to pay for new things.
Yeah, cantrip versatility, I don't have any issue with.
Especially it's when you're leveling. It's not like it's happening on a short or long rest or sometime that it would be odd. It's just saying, yep, I'm just doing that, retooling at my level anyways.
Speaking of which, spell versatility. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace a spell you've learned from the spellcasting feature with another spell from your same spell list. It must be of the same level as the spell you replace. Now, this is for bards and rangers, I believe, because they have spells that they learn, and then that is it. Sorcerers also get this. That on a long rest, you just swap them out.
My gut reaction is no, but I'm trying to process why I feel that way. Partly because it almost is like preparing spells at that point, which is not how those classes work.
Which then completely overrides part of the whole thing of clerics, wizards who get to swap spells that they have either been granted by their deities or you pick the class that does this. Now, switching spells as you level, I don't mind. But switching spells as you rest, why?
Yeah, because you can do that as a cleric. You know all the spells, but you prepare them.
And
all your spells. Druids, you know all your spells. Paladins, you know all your spells. That's why they didn't get this feature.
Wizards, you have a textbook, that you study.
Which every level, you auto-learn 2 spells of your choice, and then during the campaign, the DM can literally grant you spells if you have the money and time to do so.
If you're a wizard, get rich, get into business, I believe is Mike's sole stance on wizards.
Yeah.
Is there any good reason to really allow this other than just for, like, the funsies?
You have a very difficult campaign. If you are running a grinder campaign and you feel as though by draining them of the ability to, like, heal a lot, or, like, you make long rests matter, I could see it happening.
I think this kind of goes back to something Tony was saying is, are these mechanically beneficial and useful and balanced tools, or are these things that are to fix build problems?
It's a fix.
Yeah. Which isn't necessarily make it bad, but I think it makes it unnecessary as an actual rule. I think if you were having a problem, you could fix that outside of the rules. I don't think you need to say every time you long rest, you could replace a spell. Because for one thing, that also adds another layer to those classes where like, well, now I gotta like double check and see if there's something better, which is not what they're supposed to be doing.
No.
Wait, there's a whole new spell list that just came out in this book. I'm gonna go see all of these spells real quick.
And that happens in this document. All the spellcasting classes get new spell lists.
Yes.
And I'm okay with that because many new spells have come out since the initial release.
Right.
It makes me feel like this document is part like, hey, look at this cool thing we did in terms of like maneuvers. And then also here's a bunch of errata and fixes. And, well, not necessarily errata, but it's the hot fix. It's the bug fix for the game that you're running. Since
you mentioned replacing and fixing, why don't we then jump into the next part? What do you think about the new features that actually replace other features? The example that like first comes up is getting rid of danger sense for barbarians and replacing it with survival instincts.
I will say danger sense is that one of the top abilities that I see when someone has it, they're always disappointed by what it does. It sounds like it should make them Spider-Man, and it doesn't.
So danger sense is as long as you can see, hear, as long as none of your perception is harmed or influenced in any way, you have advantage on dex saves.
Just dex saves. Not checks, just saves. Not attacks. People are like, so I can see attacks coming, and Dodgeman's like, no, but you are really good at getting away from falling rocks.
I do like survival instincts as a replacement, though, because sometimes I want my barbarian to kind of be like this shaman type character who's adept at knowing the land and dealing with animals and everything else.
Oh, so a ranger?
Knowing the land and reacts to the animals, but then also gets real angry sometimes and ignores all of that other stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes I want to be able to talk to the spirits with my ancestral guardians, and ranger don't do that.
Yeah, but this one, it gives you basically double proficiency in 2 skills, which seems bonkers to give to a barbarian to me.
It's limited. It's not for any skill. It's just for these.
It's only for nature-focused skills. Really. I mean, it's animal handling, medicine, nature, perception, and survival.
But it makes a major multi-classing problem, I think. It's just another way to get double proficiency.
Which you can become ridiculous if you go with barbarian, and then you have the ranger that you can get double proficiency in one thing, and then just get rogue for a couple other double proficiencies.
Okay, but leaving multi-classing aside, let's just look at it for the barbarian. It just makes them better at checks. A couple of checks.
It's this one, and Instinctive Pounce replaces the fast movement from the barbarian.
What does fast movement do again?
Your speed increases by 10 feet. This one, you can basically do a charging pounce on somebody. Which, that sounds more barbarian to me.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
Yeah. It sounds scary if you were
It
like
does.
the one being attacked. You'd be like,
Imagine like a raging person, like you stopped within 15 and they pounce to you.
yeah, and they just go, whoomp, and suddenly you're like, ah!
I like it.
Mike's like, this pleases me.
I like it as well, Mike.
No, it feeds into the barbarian, I guess, fantasy, for lack of a better word, in terms of the play cycle that you want, which is charge in, bash the dude in the face, and then you see movement at the edge of your vision, and you're like, ah!
Yeah, it literally is that, because you use your reaction as long as the enemy's been moved within 15 feet of you. You can use half your speed to get closer to the creature with no opportunity attacks against you.
Which is important because rage ends if you're not able to bash a dude in the face.
No attacks and no damage against you till the end of your next turn. If that happens, you lose your
Well,
rage.
you're not getting to attack with this, right? You're just getting to move up.
No, it's just the movement, but you're getting in range, which means they either have to take time and disengage from you,
Right.
or they just decide, I'm going to stay here, and then you can attack them and you don't
I guess
lose your
this
rage.
is happening now.
Actually, I find it funny. Most of the actual replacements are ranger replacements, by the way.
Oh, for the replaceabilities?
I just looked at what's a replacement versus an enhancement. They're mostly ranger.
Yeah, out of all the abilities, I think only 8 are replacements.
There's also like a damage fix for cleric, which I wasn't sure what to take away from it. The Blessed Strikes, which I think right now what you get with potent spellcasting is that you get to add a d8 of radiant damage to spell attacks. And all this does is just, I don't know, homogenize things so that it doesn't matter if you're bashing them in the face or using a spell, you get your d8 radiant.
But once per turn.
Is your cleric going to be getting multiple attacks?
Multiclass. Did you not hear about the ranger, rogue, fighter, cleric?
Level 8, though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, sorry. I feel like that I don't want to keep being up, but multi-class. But of course, the biggest problem we found with most of the Unearthed Arcana stuff is it just doesn't work at all with multi-class, or it works far too well.
We haven't touched on Monk. It's kind of fixing something that you get from Kensei. Like, you join Kensei because you want to use a non-monk weapon as a monk weapon.
That's the one thing, basically, it makes Kensei kind of, well, why am I going into Kensei?
It's that 1d4 on a ranged attack, Tony, is a bonus action.
Ooh, so good.
Oh, I'm sorry. And proficiency in either calligraphy or painter's tools.
Hey, don't knock
You're right.
calligraphy,
You
okay?
can't knock that.
Kensei is, like, great thematically, but mechanically, yeah.
Yeah, Adam loved playing a Kensei.
I think a Kensei caps out.
Yeah.
It has a similar thing with the ranger where after a certain level, it kind of caps out and is,
Yeah, so we've been kind of knocking some of this stuff because it's not balanced. But of course, the more stuff you add, the more unbalanced it'll become. And there's so much stuff in this PDF.
And honestly, there's plenty of stuff in this that I actually like. I do like the expanded spell lists.
Yeah. So for the monk, they have the key-fueled strike. If you spend 1 key as part of your action, you can then immediately make an unarmed strike as a bonus action.
Except you can already do that.
Yeah.
I was looking at that and I'm like, I haven't played a monk in a while. Am I missing something here? This seems totally random.
You don't even need Flurry of Blows. Literally, as part of your martial arts, you can attack as an unarmed strike as a bonus action as long as you've used a monk weapon or unarmed strike.
Does this stack with Flurry of Blows then?
I'm confused as to why this even exists.
What are we missing?
Okay, so you attack, right?
Yes, because you're a monk. Why else are you here?
And you spend your ki to do like a stunning strike or something. As a part of that stunning strike, then you can take a bonus unarmed attack.
As a bonus action, not a bonus attack.
As a bonus action, you may make a single unarmed strike.
So let me read something for you really quick. When you use the attack action with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon on a turn, you can make one unarmed strike as a bonus action.
Okay.
A monk feature under martial arts, already given, no key required. What is different?
I'm so confused.
If I'm not spending ki to do an attack action.
But you don't need to spend a key to do an attack action. You can just attack.
If I'm using my action for something beyond attack, I still can attack.
So you're saying
Okay.
you spend a key on something besides
So
an
you don't
attack.
have to attack. You can just have a bonus action. So basically, this still becomes useless because there is nothing you can do at level 2 to spend your key point to do anything as an action. Your key points are always bonus actions.
Quickened Healing, which is a new feature that they add to ki. As an action, you spend 2 ki and heal equal to your martial arts die. So you can take a breath, Quickened Healing, and then still slap a guy in the face for like 1 die.
So literally, this only exists for quick and healing.
A tiny,
Yes.
tiny edge case.
Because you don't want to, because nothing feels worse than spending your action to heal 1d6.
But why does either of these exist? Because you're a monk.
I guess it's at level 2. It's giving you some sort of healing ability.
I mean, mind you, like some of these features are actually kind of cool, and quick and healing is interesting. So quick and healing, you spend 2 key points and roll a martial arts die, which means you spend all of your key points and roll a martial arts die,
At level 2.
and you regain a number of hit points equal to that number only.
No wisdom modifier, no bonus.
You could just get 1 HP back at level 2. I'm seriously trying to figure out, like, what makes any of this better.
You're like, why did they write this? Is basically what you're saying.
It's based off of your martial arts die, which at this level, at level 2, it's D4. So I took a hit from an enemy, I'm going to roll my D4 and hopefully get a 4, and then I can punch them as a bonus action, and then I'm out of key.
Oh, that's so sad. That's basically the rest of my party is dead. I am going to die.
Like, at that point, I'm going to use my key to Step of the Wind and get out of there.
Yeah, run for it, buddy.
Because I can run a lot faster than most things here.
Yes.
Please contact us if you figure out something we didn't about why this is useful.
What makes this monk feature okay?
I like Distant Eye if I want to be 300 feet away from combat. A Distant Eye allows for you to ignore the long range penalty after spending a single key. Or rather, you spend a key to ignore the long distance penalty. So what is the long distance on a longbow?
600 feet.
But are you going to be doing that as a monk? Or are you going to be throwing a mean dart? Well, hold on. What do you get for your ranged weapons as a monk? Nothing. Darts. Darts. Oh my gosh. This just lets you throw darts.
However, if you're an elven monk, you then get, I believe, longbow.
Or halflings who get short bows.
But, like, these are all so sad. You should just run up and punch people. So are we saying, out of all the new features for all these different classes, monks, you were robbed?
Yeah, I mean, either why bother with Kensei now, with their monk weapons ability, and then why does Key Field Strike exist?
Please help us, if anyone figures it out.
Send help.
Are we missing something?
We were going to get into Warlock.
Yes, there's a lot.
Where do we start, Tony?
I mean, most of it's the invocations for what the new stuff that the Warlock gets, right? And then they have their new pact they can do.
Yeah, which is cool.
You've heard of Pact of the Tome, and Pact of the Blade, and Pact of the Chain, but have you heard of Pact of the Talisman?
Which is what you wear nice jewelry is magic?
You're given a special amulet by your patron. Your sugar mama or daddy gives you some nice bling.
Sugar parrot.
And this bling can aid you or someone else who wears it. So the wearer can make an ability check with a skill they lack proficiency in and add a d4 to the roll while having the talisman. Similar to other abilities that you get in the packs, you can perform an hour-long ceremony and get a replacement.
I have no problem with this.
I mean, you're spending an action to give them a d4, but it means that somebody who's rolling with something that they're not adept with can do
2d4 on top of it.
Building on to what you were saying at the level 3 pact ability, once you get to level 9, you can use it to add to a saving throw if you lack proficiency, which is cool. It doesn't seem too overpowered for level 9.
I mean, one of the early abilities you can also get is Rebuke of the Talisman, which if someone is wearing your talisman, gets hit by an attack, you can just, deal psychic damage to them and push them back 10 feet.
You're just like, that's my person wearing my jewelry.
That's my friend.
We have a friendship bracelet.
Yeah, Bond of the Talisman does something more with that, where if someone is wearing it, you can use your action to teleport to them, as long as you are on the same plane of existence, or they can teleport to you.
Yeah, we were saying this is like a gift from your sugar mama or daddy, from your patron, but it's also more like a friendship bracelet. Like,
because you give it to someone.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like, all right, I'm going to go mail my talisman out to my buddy that lives halfway across the world, so I can take care of a bunch of stuff here, and then I'll just bamf over to them.
Yeah.
Granted, just you, not your party.
No. I only need me. Guys, you start traveling. I'll show up later. My patron needs a few things.
That is a good thing to do in case, the DM wants you to do a personal quest or something, and then you just kind of bamf back to the party later.
Yeah. In terms of that, it's interesting. I kind of like it.
I have to say, all this is cool and interesting. Still not as good as the other packed options to me for
I like the other
usefulness.
pack. Also, there's more stuff for the other packed options already, of course.
Yes.
So.
One thing that jumped out at me was Eldritch Armor, which as an action, you can touch a suit of armor that isn't being worn or carried, and then you immediately don it, and you are proficient with the armor until it is removed. Which all that tells me is that warlocks can now go to shops and steal armor.
Oh, I wore this in. Did you not see me?
It is the shoplifting invocation.
Still has the tag on it.
I do have to say, though, really, this is kind of lame when you actually think about it, though, as a full ability when most of us don't worry too much about the whole donning armor requirements anyways.
It's if you get ambushed and you're not, screwed out of actual defenses.
It lets the warlock just be like, oh, yeah, no, I have armor now. We're good. It's also specifically for the warlocks that use Pact of the Blade, so for the fighter type of warlocks.
So shoplift plate armor as soon as possible.
We're saying this is not something you would be using all the time.
I would use it.
As an action, no restriction. You can do this all day. We need to make money? Give me a day and I will resell a bunch of plate armor. You're
just looking to do crime, buddy. That's what you're saying.
You're a warlock. What else do you mean to do?
Friendship. Do you not hear Akiva's calls?
No, I think it's an interesting ability. I think we're finding narrative ways to make it useful. I just think it's a lot weaker than some of the other abilities. I was looking at Farscribe.
Farscribe is broken economically.
Oh, it's so broken, but it's cool, right? So you get a new page in your Book of Shadows. With your permission, a creature can use its action to write its name, which is a number of names equal to your charisma modifier. And you can cast Sending, targeting one of the names on the page, without using a spell slot, without using components. And you just write the message on the page, and basically they hear it the same as the message spelled normally, and then it disappears after a minute. And you can also magically erase the name by touching it.
I kind of love this.
It's a Rolodex.
Oh, I was going to say it's WhatsApp. With self-destructing messages.
It's
so good in the right campaign.
I kind of love this. This is one of the ones I would definitely like to use.
I mean, you'd be open to it. I think it sounds like it could be super broken if you really were maximizing this, I suppose.
I don't think it's as broken as it would be, because you have to have the person write their own name in the book, which means you have to have met them.
Hey, can you put your number in my phone?
Because Sending, you just need to be aware of the person for the most part.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are restrictions to stuff. I think it's cool.
I think this is meant for DMs who are building by the book NPCs, Because this is how you have your cult of warlocks stay in communication as they do the evil plot.
I like that. I'm like, this would be cool for player characters to stay in touch. You're like, so let's talk about how this could be used for evil conspiracy.
For NPCs.
You said it yourself. It's WhatsApp with self-destructing communication. There's no paper trail on this.
Yeah, I think
Infinite
it's good.
uses of the sending spell to a select number of people.
If you kill the person who owns the Book of Shadows, the thing you get from Pact of the Tome,
Yeah, it's all gone.
yeah, the book destroys itself, which means you don't get, like, the secret spy Rolodex thing.
So you're saying this is for your fantasy CIA or something like that.
I'm not taking notes, guys. Don't worry.
Tony's like jotting this down. No, but this is one of the ones I saw and I was like, this is cool. I like it. I think it's fun.
This is probably one of the features I like the most out of all of the features in this thing.
I think it's the advanced Nevercell network. Just saying.
Maybe this is how they do it. We just don't know.
This is like the next tier. The platinum membership. So we need to get Leuven in on that.
I don't know if he has the money.
There's also the anti-death note, Gift of the Protectors, which is also Pact of the Tome, which people write their names in your book, and then when one of them is reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, they drop to 1 hit point instead, and then it resets on a long rest.
Well, yeah. So if you have multiple people write their names, it's like, hey, it's only whoever dies first.
And I think it's the book that resets. So if multiple people have the names, if someone else happens to be reduced to 0, oops.
Yep.
Yeah, no one can benefit from it until you finish a long rest. But I also like the idea you could magically erase a name. So you're like, you thought we were friends? Point at book. No magic healing.
That's so good.
It's such a good, like, no, I got you. Your name's in the book. You're fine.
This is so good for intrigue.
Just run in and, just, cause havoc. You'll be fine. Touch his name.
So good. I love it.
It's a perfect betrayal thing, is my immediate thought for this.
Oh, yeah. It's a great way to know who your real friends are. You're like, guys, I can only have as many friends as my charisma modifier. So I'm afraid you didn't make the list until I become more charismatic.
We need to stay in touch. Are you on the list? I'm not sure.
You better not have more than 5 party members.
Oh, jeez.
I thought we were friends. Business partners, more like.
Yeah,
and
I just like the other people more than you, or I feel like maybe they're more useful. No offense, but...
See, my charisma is maxed out, so as a role, I can convince you why you're not in this book. However, you're just not in this book, so let's just deal with it.
Yeah, so we're all like, especially drawn to Pact of the Tome. It's probably my favorite of the Warlock packs in general, but I like these additions. I think they're cool.
It introduces this idea of just like this bookish nerd of a warlock that's just kind of aloof.
Oh, I think I say a psychopath.
I mean, yes.
Just you roll into town and whoever's coordinating the party knows that they can do the far scribe. It says, hey, can you add them to the list? I really don't want to add them to the list. They're not good enough. I need to go over here and talk with these people. Be right back.
Adds an interview process to like assessing things.
Yep.
Regular check-ins like, hey, I know I value you as a team member, but I feel you've been underperforming lately and I'd like to swap in someone else. Remove name.
I do find it interesting that it has to be the creature who puts its name in the book.
Yes.
You can't do it.
Well, but why wouldn't you want your name in the
No,
book?
I just mean that it has to be someone that, like, in the moment and you want to put them in the book, which is basically for party members.
Yeah, we didn't look at any of the Pact of the Chain, which are the ones that, that's what Akiva is, right?
Investment of the Chainmaster strikes me as kind of odd. It gives your familiar either a flying speed or swimming speed, which I think some of them already have.
If you pick it like an owl, yeah.
Your familiar no longer needs to breathe, which I was not aware that was a concern.
Never gave that any thought. Nope.
Your familiar's weapon attacks are considered magical for the purpose of overcoming resistances. If a familiar forces a creature to make a saving throw, it uses your spell save DC, which implies to me that this is more of a fix.
Yeah.
That they wanted to do for familiars anyways, for Pact of the Chain, you're thinking?
To give them more than just standard find familiar, right? Saying, here's some fixes to make it better.
I'm just imagining, though, that some of these things can be very silly, like giving my cat familiar a flying speed. It doesn't grow wings or anything. It just kind of floats.
It
hovers. You're picturing Puck just sort of hovering by. You're like, hey, dude.
Just whatever the animal equivalent of a T-pose is, as it just floats. This is why I don't play a warlock.
Because you're like, let me make this as silly as possible.
What this does mean, though, is if you do take investment of the Chainmaster, if you don't have the ability to deal magical damage with your weapon, then your creature does, but also you have spells.
It'd be so sad.
What are you doing if that's the case?
I am a warlock with a D4 dagger, and my cat can attack better than I can.
The party's like, why did we hire this guy?
Could you still use it if you're bound? Like, let's say you're bound and tied up.
You're saying, like, restrained?
Yeah, you're restrained, tied up, or you're in a cell or something. Your familiar could go out, kill the guard, and take the keys.
Is this like a level 1 commoner guard that can't handle the cat?
You realize most familiars, if the guard, like, looks at them a little strictly, they'll explode and die. They have, like, a D4 of health at most.
It's fine.
But you could try, or you could just use it to cast spells. That's what we're coming back to, is like, I guess maybe you're out of spell slots in this scenario.
Just Eldritch Blast. Eldritch Blast. Just blast everything.
Basically.
Rachel's like, I don't want to talk about Eldritch Blast anymore. It's so overplayed.
Okay, do some Shocking Grasp. Make sure so your familiar can, like, electrocute people when they sit on their shoulders. One thing we, like, really only touched on was proficiency versatility.
Oh, that's true.
I'll say that, like, as a general thing, I actually don't like that. So whenever you gain an ability store improvement with your class, you can replace one of your skill proficiencies with another skill proficiency offered by your class at first level. The proficiency you place need to be from the class. This change represents one of your skills atrophying as you focus on a different skill. This is one to me that, like, the whole point of the skills as you're gaining them is the fact that you've taken all of this time to gain them in your backstory. That you've taken, it's similar to the fighting styles and maneuvers for me, is it's part of your backstory as how you got these skills. Now, rogues will get the expertise and basically they become much better at the various skills, and that's different, but that's why I don't like
I said, guys, I don't do calligraphy anymore. I do pottery.
Well, not that. It's like, guys, remember how I'm really good at picking pockets? I'm not good at that anymore. I'm actually, like, nowhere near as good as I was. I'm now good at this other thing.
Well, I mean, if it's something you're not using, though, you're getting rusty.
What happens when you add it to rogue's expertise, though?
It's letting you swap out of stuff you shouldn't be able to swap out of, is what you're saying.
You expertise in something because you're planning to use it, and you realize, I'm not really using this, and I know I have expertise for it, but I'm just not going to be proficient in this, and then do I just get to move my expertise now?
That's a good point.
I find that as an edge case.
But it's saying you have proficiency, not expertise or proficiency.
Except with rogue, you choose the skill you have expertise in. So if you're removing a skill that you had expertise in, what happens to the expertise?
A bigger concern would be something like a barbarian taking survival instincts, which gives them double proficiency on 5 skills. And then you start training out your background skills to use those 5 specific double proficiency skills. I see that as more of an edge case. I think the core idea that they're trying to get at, which is you change as a person as you adventure. I'm okay with that.
I think part of our bias comes from the way we play games, which is time is pretty contained. So for us, it's hard to say narratively, yes, we've leveled a few times. How would I have forgotten or have completely learned a new skill? I think that's part of it. But we're also leveling, so we're learning new stuff. But the atrophying makes less sense when you level quickly, narratively.
Narratively, though, in, like, Tony's game, it's been several weeks since we started. I have not used probably some of my skills, like...
I mean, if it's only a few weeks, I figure this is the sort of thing that takes,
This is the thing that, like, if you're forgetting the skill that you've taken years to obtain, why are you losing it in a couple of weeks? That's my issue with it.
By the same token, then how does taking the skilled feat work?
Because you've been training to get up to this point. And you are learning new skills. You're not deciding, oh, I'm going to swap these out.
Tony's point is it's hard to forget how to do something. It's easy to forget information. It's hard to forget how to do things you've learned how to do quickly.
Okay.
It's the loss of it that I have more the issue with, and the swapping out is like, I know, I haven't really been using athletics much, but now I'm, like, really good at athletics.
I think this goes back to what you were saying before for the other things. This is a fix for when you're like, I have a build problem.
I think this is a fix for a build problem that can be discussed with a GM and not necessarily have to be a thing that is part of actual class
mechanic.
features.
Yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. You're not opposed to it happening. You're just opposed to it being something that has to happen because the rules allow it.
So what you're saying is they should have just added a clause. Just talk to your DM.
Yeah.
Well, here's where I think it's a little weird to have it be a rule, because this is not a rules written, so it's not going to be something you could use to say if your DM wouldn't allow it. Haha, you must allow it because it's in a PDF somewhere. I guess you could, but it seems like it just doesn't need to be a rule that's not official.
So yeah, I guess in summary, like, how do you guys feel about this list and these changes? Like, I know we kind of discussed overall that it seems like they're trying to fix issues in the original design, but what are your final thoughts?
I think it's worth reviewing if you already embrace Unearthed Arcana in your game. If you're not using Unearthed Arcana, this is not a good place to start. It's overwhelming. There's so much here, and it has a lot of impacts to other classes and other abilities. So if you're not super comfortable, if you are not already really into tweaking, adapting, and adding content to your game, don't mess with this. It's a lot. There's a lot to tackle, but if you have a player who's read it and they're really interested in particular things, I think it's worth having a discussion about how you can implement certain features. We've kind of talked through the ones we like and don't like for the most part, and
pick and choose.
But only pick and choose if you want to be ready to have to continue to make adjustments, because the more stuff you add, the more unbalanced it will become, which is true of any of the Unearthed Arcana. But we didn't even get into the other Unearthed Arcana that was released after this with the new psionic subclass features, which would add a whole other layer of complexity to this. So if you want to keep things streamlined, stay away. But if you're willing to embrace change, try some new things.
Be willing to change them with your DM as you realize how broken they are.
Yes.
For the good or bad.
And if you're a player, be kind to your DM. They might say yes and then later realize that something is just too much. You know, these things happen.
Mistakes were made.
It's a process. That's my take on it.
Things I would allow in my game would be the new fighter maneuvers and the new fighting styles. And that's about it.
You're like, well, what about the expanded spell list?
Those I would allow. I would allow the, burn your channel divinity to regain a spell slot. I would allow the fixes, except for Ranger. Ranger, there's just so much there that it's almost a different class, and then you compare it with the other Unearthed Arcana Ranger.
You're saying just don't get involved with the Ranger stuff. It's not worth it.
No, it's not worth it. I don't know what's going on with Ranger. I don't know what's going on with Monk, aside from the new Monk weapons thing. Just a testament to how great Rogue is. Rogue just got an additional thing to their cunning action.
It's so solid, right? It warms Mike's heart.
Look, it's a martial guy who knows what he does.
He stabs.
I go and I stab them really hard.
Unless it's Scriv, Mike's rogue, where he's like, so you're the stabbing type of rogue? Oh, no, not that type of rogue. Sneaking? No. Stealing? No. Lockpicking?
No.
It's like, what do you do?
I know things.
I would like the Barbarian changes also. Warlock is mostly good. Talisman is kind of weird, but...
If you really want a Warlock who believes in the power of friendship...
Yeah, if you're Celestial Pact Warlock and you have no reason to get, like, a little cherub familiar guy or a sword or a magic book, here you go. You'll be helpful to the party.
I am a Celestial with the power of friendship. I give friendship to you. You hold on to friendship for now. That will be the name of my talisman. It will be called friendship.
Oh, yeah. Gosh. Basically, if you want to be an anime character, here are more options.
Yep. Yeah, I like some of the changes. I definitely like the channel divinity, alternate, and I also like the that fighting style would be cool to get a couple of cantrips. So I think there's a lot of good enhancements overall. A lot of the enhancements seem pretty cool or usable. I don't know about all the replacements being useful, but definitely pick and choose, and definitely talk with your DM about it, because there might be things that they go, no.
Tony, you get to address the multi-classing elephant in the room, because we didn't touch on it.
Oh, that will completely break all multi-classing if you just make your super skill monkey, barbarian, rogue, and ranger.
But nobody would ever do that.
Yeah, and that's like by level 6 or 7 once Ranger gets their second expertise, or Rogue gets their second expertise.
And Bard too. Bard of all trades, and
Oh yeah, add Bard in there so that all the rest of your skills get half
Ooh,
your
and Warlock
proficiency.
with that talisman?
We're just going to make this crazy. Yeah.
Let's go crazy, guys. We're going to have a luchador and a...
Mike he's forgotten the luchador. He's moved on now. This is the new hotness.
No. This is a party where you have a bard to provide support, a warlock to provide extra firepower and support for the bard, a luchador fighter, and I guess a druid.
What we're saying is do this for your one shot, not for your campaign. Unless you
Or do it for your campaign and just go off the rails. Like,
Don't break the DM. But no, like my opinion too, I like, as much as we bashed on several of the things in here, I actually have no problem with cantrip versatility. Some of the changes to Barbarian are fine. I don't actually have any issues with them. No to spell versatility or maneuver versatility. Beyond that, like, no, I have no problem with the cantrip versatility. I like some of the new maneuver options. I think they're interesting.
Are you going to let Mike use some new stuff for
If
script?
you want to pick some of these maneuvers, feel free.
Silver tongue.
Cool.
So that he can do stuff
You
besides
can.
the combat.
Like, I actually don't mind that.
Is this the script overcoming his social anxiety maneuver?
Yes. Eventually I would like to take skilled, since he's been hanging out with people who actually do know how to handle themselves.
Are you
Actually, a
my
lot of
mentor?
people. Like, there's lots of charisma people around.
Every NPC script's like, so you seem capable. Can we hang out? Can I learn from you? Can I spar with you? You seem cool. And people are like, I literally just met you, and he's like, but I'd like to start taking notes on you.
So I'm looking at the maneuvers. Like, honestly, Silver Tongue, yeah. Studious Eye also makes sense to me for Scriv. So Studious Eye lets you, as an insight or investigation check, you can expend a superiority die and add that die to the ability check.
I might actually have Scriv take 2 non-combat battle maneuvers.
And that's fine. Like, that works because honestly, most of what Scriv does is not super combat focused.
Are you the damaging type of rogue?
No.
Which is why I looked at these and I'm like, I kind of like them. For example, I have no problem having any of these in the game. For Warlock, oh gosh, the Far Scribe was just really cool. I just really like that. A lot of the invocations are just, I like those. I think they're interesting. So overall, I think there's a lot of really cool, interesting stuff to play with here. But it feels like mostly a fix.
We're all saying in summary, talk to your players, talk to your DMs, use UA responsibly.
or at your own risk.
Yeah, that too.
Thank you, Mike, for joining us for this UA talk on class variant features.
Thank you for having me. It's good to just talk about mechanics again.
I know at some point we need to talk about the psionic ones.
Yes.
I have thoughts.
That's a topic for another time.
Until then.
Bye.
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 Bye.